Hello everybody, and welcome to Rest and Reason. I'm RP the Red Panda, and today we're going to be looking at Terraforming Mars. Now, Terraforming Mars is the fifth game in my series of fixer-uppers, but I wanted to make a real quick note on why I actually changed the name of this entire series. Originally, I said how this game is broken. And I found that this didn't communicate what I wanted it to communicate. I was meaning that there was something wrong with the game that made it not a really great game that I would recommend to people, but still maybe a really good fundamental backbone for a game. However, a lot of people took this as me saying that the game was just absolute garbage and that I should just throw it away, or as just pure clickbait. So I've decided that a more accurate description of what I'm trying to say is what's wrong with these games and how to fix what's wrong with them. Because even the best game, even one of my favorite games, for example this one, is one of my absolute favorite games of all time, and I still feel like there's a lot about this game that could be better and can be fixed. So, I'm also going to show how sometimes the publishers themselves see these problems and fix them themselves. And this is one of my first examples of this in Terraforming Mars. So let's get right into it. First off, let's look at the feel of Terraforming Mars. Terraforming Mars feels exactly like you are Elon Musk making Mars livable. Really, that's kind of what you feel like. I mean, honestly, I wish I could wear an Elon Musk mask playing this game, because you put on that mask, you send spaceships, you crash meteors into the planet, you put out forests, you put out cities, you put out oceans, you raise the temperature. You really do feel epic. I mean, one of the cards is literally blow up a moon on the planet. Crash a moon into the planet. That's one of the cards. So you kind of feel like Elon Musk. And for a lot of us, that's a really fun pitch right off the bat. And then it does it through the main mechanic of engine building. Now, I actually already described engine building in Citrus. So go ahead and click on this or down in the description to be able to go see that description of what engine building is. So I'm going to go ahead and say right off the bat that just like a lot of the games in this series, this is an excellent game. There are so many good things about this game, but that doesn't mean there aren't things that are wrong with it. And I'm going to start with the first problem, which is it is too long. And the main reason it's too long of a game originally is because you start off with just one company. In this case, this company. This company raises only one of your things. So you have 6 things that you can raise, and this only raises one of them. The rest all start at 0. As you can imagine, starting at 0 makes it so that it takes a very long time to move these up and slowly get bigger and bigger over time so that you can actually do things in the game. Now, that's not necessarily a huge problem for some people, but for a lot of people, it makes the game longer without necessarily adding anything to the experience. So, the publishers of Terraforming Mars actually came out with the Preludes expansion. Now, I don't actually have the box for it anymore because I loved this expansion so much, I just threw away the box and put it in the bigger box. Because this expansion makes the game so much shorter. And it does so by giving you 2 Prelude cards. This one gives you an extra $21, giving you 50% almost more money than originally. And this one makes it so instead of raising it by 1, you're raising that thing by 4 at the beginning of the game in total. So you wouldn't be at 1, you'd be at 4. I absolutely love this because it not only solves the problem of the game being a little bit too long, but it also does it in a way that increases asymmetry. And most board gamers like asymmetry. They like the ability to play different factions with different goals each time. And this makes it so that you start off with a different goal and a different company each time, and that company kind of forces you to try a new strategy and makes the game really interesting, exciting, and fun. Now, that solution was done by the publisher for that problem. The second main problem with this game is that there is too much luck. Now, many people will point out to me, luck is a good thing. It means that you have to be adaptable. And I would generally agree with this idea in certain games, but there are two main reasons why the high level of luck in Terraforming Mars doesn't really work. First of all, Terraforming Mars is an engine building game. And most engine building games, the point of them is to meticulously plan and think ahead and create something that runs efficiently. Now, I know there are some that their whole point is to make an engine that adapts and maybe even falls apart some. But that's not how Terraforming Mars is supposed to be. It's a game where you're building up terraforming. You're building up companies. You're not facing random garbage because you're in space. Once you're in space, it's all good. The main problem is getting the rocket off the ground for the most part. And then Mars is a very quiet planet. It doesn't have a lot of volcanoes going off anymore because it's been silent for a long time. So it feels weird that you're constantly having to deal with luck. And the weirdest part is this luck all comes with the cards. You see, in the original game, you get, at the beginning of the game, 10 random cards. You're stuck with those 10 as your first options. Then, from then on, you just get 4 random cards every turn of the game. That means that you could get 10 pretty horrible cards, and your friend gets 10 pretty great cards, and suddenly you're in a bad spot for the beginning of the game. Or maybe they're not even bad cards. Maybe they just don't really match up with your starting company, or they just don't really match up with each other. Either of those situations will make it so that you're sitting there with a hand of cards that's less good than your opponent for no other reason than pure luck. The game actually takes this problem and solves it with a special variant in the rules. The rule book for Terraforming Mars has something called the drafting variant. Humorously enough, I have never played this game without the drafting variant. I was taught the drafting variant and have only played it since. And the reason is simple. With the drafting variant, if you want to know more about drafting, go ahead and click on my link here or down in the description for Sushi Go Party, which will describe drafting in detail. But in this game, those 10 cards you start with, you actually pass and draft with those 10 cards. With the turns that are later in the game, you pass and draft those 4 cards you started with. And this makes it so that you can take cards that work together, that work both with your starting company and with each other, so that you can actually plan for what you're going to do in the game. It also means that you get to see a lot of this deck, because this is a huge deck, and in the original rules, you're going to see very little of this deck in your game. Whereas with the drafting one, you're going to see basically everything. And even the publisher admits that this is the better one for strategy. And this is a long strategy game. So I want it to be long and somewhat long, but strategic primarily. The other idea for a solution on this is my own variant. I personally think, and actually somebody pointed out to me in my conversations on the channel, that Terraforming Mars should maybe take this deck and divide it. And it's actually pretty simple to do, just like with Viticulture. It's a pretty easy game to divide the deck. You simply divide it by buildings with this tag, miscellaneous with every other thing card that doesn't have what I'm about to say, space tags and Jovian tags in a space deck, and then plants, microbes, and animals in a biology deck. This makes it so that you have 4 decks with relatively similar strategy to them. And at the beginning of the game, you're going to start with 3 from the buildings, 3 from the miscellaneous, 1 from the space, 1 from the biology, and then you may choose 2 other ones to put into your hand. Then you can either keep that group, or you can do the past drafting expansion variant that I just talked about. In later turns of the game, you will get 1 from each stack of cards. And the bonus to getting 1 from each stack of cards is that you are not stuck as a player going for space without any cards that help you get to space, help you buy space-related technology. And in the original game, that happened quite a bit. You would be going for a strategy and no cards or no good cards of your type would come up. And that just was a real bummer. So this tries to help mitigate the luck, but I will say that if you'd like a little bit more of that adaptability I was talking about earlier, and a little bit more of thematicness where, yeah, you're just going to be getting a lot of pitches from a lot of different people, then maybe this isn't the variant for you. But if you would prefer to be able to plan and know that there's something that works with your plan, this variant of splitting up the decks should help you out a lot. Now, originally, I give this game a 2.95 out of 5, which is slightly above average. But it's still only a bronze recliner. And the reason it's only a bronze recliner is because it's a game that I would only recommend to very specific people. For example, I only have 2 people I know for certain that this is a game I'm going to take out quite often to play with them. And by quite often, I mean once every couple months. And that means that it's a game that really isn't super universal. And that's largely because of the length and also because of the luck. A game that's this long and has as much luck as the original has is too much for a lot of people. They don't like spending 3, 4, 5 hours on a game that in the end they just got bad luck of the cards and lost. The fixed version of the game, however, gets a 3.7 out of 5. And that is a silver recliner. The reason it's such a big jump from the original game is largely that luck factor, especially the pass and draft. The pass and draft variant that's already in the box, already described by the designer of the game, makes the game significantly better because you actually have some level of control and some level of strategizing that you can do instead of having to randomly adapt to a lot of bad cards or cards that aren't even bad but don't fit with your strategy. So this game, once fixed, is a game I would generally recommend as the go-to advanced engine builder. If you just finished up playing Citrus, which is the best mid-level one that I've played, then this is the best upper advanced level engine builder that I have ever personally played, and that most people I have played games with agree seems to be one of the top advanced board games. So, my question for you guys today is, what other games are you familiar with where the expansion to the game inherently fixes a problem with the original game? I'd love to know what those are, and maybe they'll line up with some of the ones I'll do later in this series where I show that that's going to happen in quite a few cases. And as always, please go ahead and hit that notification button, hit that subscribe button, join my posse. Just like Elon Musk, social media can really drive up my wealth, but more than my wealth, my popularity, so that I can spread more great games and humor and fun and analysis to the world. And as always, thank you so much for joining us today on Rest and Reason.